Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we're diving deep into a really influential book, Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow. And trust me, it uses some serious evidence to flip some of marketing's oldest beliefs right on their head. Let's get into it.
Right from the get-go, the book kicks things off with a huge provocative question. It basically asks, hey, what if the very foundation of your marketing strategy is, well, just plain wrong?
I mean, for years, this has been marketing 101, right? The gospel has always been grow your brand by getting a hardcore base of loyal fans who buy from you over and over again. It sounds right, it feels right, but what does the actual data say?
So, to really put this to the test, we're going to look at a classic case study. It's one that seems at first glance to totally back up this whole loyalty idea, but it actually holds the secret to why it's all wrong. Let's call it the Colgate puzzle.
Okay, so picture this. In the US toothpaste market, Crest has double the market share of Colgate. They're crushing it. So naturally, if you're Colgate, you're asking, how on earth do we close this gap?
Now, if we peek under the hood at Crest's customers, it looks exactly like you'd think a market leader should look. A huge chunk of their sales comes from loyal, repeat buyers. This seems like a super solid foundation, right? A loyal army of fans.
But then you look at Colgate, and it's a totally different story. Their base of loyal customers is way smaller. Instead, they're much more dependent on what we call switchers. You know, those people who aren't really dedicated to any single brand.
So the conclusion seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? Colgate must have a loyalty problem. They're attracting the wrong kind of buyer, these flaky customers who won't stick around. Clearly, they need better ads, something more persuasive to build that loyalty. This is the kind of analysis you'd hear in almost any marketing meeting.
But here's the bombshell. According to Byron Sharp and decades of research, that whole diagnosis, it's completely fundamentally wrong. And that means the strategy that follows from it, chasing after more loyalty, is basically a road to nowhere.
And this is where it gets really interesting. That obvious answer, it gets the cause and effect totally backward. You see, Colgate's slower loyalty isn't causing its small market share. It's the other way around. It's the predictable consequence of it. And this is all explained by a scientific law in marketing. It's a pattern called the double jeopardy law. And it's simple. Smaller brands always get a double whammy. First, they have way fewer buyers to begin with. And second, those few buyers they do have are also just a little bit less loyal. It's not a problem with the brand, it's just a mathematical rule of how markets work.
And listen, this isn't some weird one-off thing that only happens with toothpaste. This pattern, this double jeopardy law, it shows up everywhere, across pretty much every category, every country, and every time period they've ever looked at. Seriously, in the world of marketing, this is basically like the law of gravity.
Okay, let's look at some more data to really nail this down. Here's the UK washing powder market. You've got Persil, the big dog, with way more market penetration than the smaller guys. But now, look at that purchase frequency column. That's our loyalty metric, right? They're all basically the same. The huge difference isn't loyalty, it's just the sheer number of people buying. Next up, the UK shampoo market. And guess what? It's the exact same story. Head & Shoulders is the leader because it has way more penetration. But loyalty, the purchase frequency, it's remarkably similar across the board. Let's do one more just to hammer it home. The US shampoo market. Different country, different brands, same unbreakable law. The brand that has the most buyers wins. Loyalty barely even changes.
So what this all means is that trying to grow your brand by focusing only on creating these super loyal fans, well, it's kind of like being an architect who decides to ignore gravity. You can be creative, you can design an amazing building, but at the end of the day, you have to work with the laws of physics, not against them.
Okay, so if loyalty isn't the lever you can actually pull, if it's just a predictable outcome of how big your brand already is, then where does real growth come from? What should you actually be targeting?
When you boil it all down, you've really got two main strategic paths. On one hand, you can focus on your current customers and try to get them to buy more often. That's the loyalty play. Or you can focus on reaching as many new people as you can, especially the light and occasional buyers. That's the penetration play.
So, someone did this fascinating analysis. They looked at hundreds of real ad campaigns to see which of these two strategies actually worked in the real world to drive major success. And the winner? Well, it wasn't even close. So get this, the campaigns that focused on penetration, on reaching new customers, they were the runaway winners. A whopping 21% of them won a top award for effectiveness. We're talking massive growth in sales and profit. And what about the campaigns that focused on loyalty? Just a measly 2%. That's it, only 2% achieved that same top-tier success.
I mean, the data is just screaming at us here. Focusing on loyalty is a really bad bet if you want big growth.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What are we supposed to do with all this information? Well, the book boils it all down to a really simple but super powerful idea.
Look, the bottom line is this. Real brand growth comes from penetration, period. It's about getting more buyers, and most of these new buyers will just be light, occasional customers. Your loyalty numbers are a symptom of your brand's size, not the cause of it. To grow bigger, you need more customers. It's that simple.
This means the real job of marketing might not be what we've always thought. It's not about forging these deep, emotional, lifelong bonds with a small group of people. It's much more practical. It's about building mental and physical availability. In other words, make your brand easy for lots of people to think of and easy for them to buy. That's the game.
And that leaves us with one last really important question you should ask yourself about your own work. So, take a hard look at your own marketing strategy. Are you swimming with the current, working with these laws of how markets actually behave? Or are you spending your time, your money, and your energy fighting a battle against gravity that you just can't win?